This is Alex. When he was 20 years old, he started a website helping companies sell more stuff by sharing a piece of the sale with anyone who referred customers. In other words, it was an affiliate business. And within 5 years, that business was doing $200 million in sales and gushing with profits. So Alex kept on building an e-commerce company selling pet food, a blogging business that pulled in millions, and now he's doing Prima. This is an app that lets people make restaurant reservations, but Alex is doing it in a whole new way. I've got Alex here right now to talk business, growth hacking, and why he loves messy markets. Let's do it. So Alex, you and I were talking a couple weeks ago, and I was listening to your story, and it's so good. We'll get into all of it today, but just tell me what you're doing right now.
So right now we are paving the highway between hotels and restaurants. There's a lot of guests that stay at high-end hotels that have a really hard time booking restaurant reservations in big cities like Miami, New York, London, LA, Ibiza, where I'm based. And we're creating an easy way for them to book those reservations directly from their hotel into the restaurants without all of the friction that currently exists within the reservation space.
So it's a marketplace where you've got restaurants on one side and hotel visitors on the other. And then how does it actually work? How does the hotel find the restaurant?
So we've curated Miami is our test market. There's over 70 restaurants that are live in Miami, and we've created a booking interface that tracks all of those transactions. As a hotel guest staying in a nice hotel, when you check in, you'll be given a card with a QR code that you can scan, and in your hotel room there will be a beautiful custom designed QR stand in the hotel room that you can scan to open up the booking interface. Our system will then know which hotel that guest is coming from and present them the curated list of restaurants. Those restaurants pay to be on our platform, and for every single one of the covers and every single one of the bookings, they pay a per cover fee, which then our system tracks and reports to the hotel partner via their dashboard so they can see exactly which touch point created that booking, who the guest was, and then from the restaurant side, they can now tell where these guests are coming from, so they can offer that high-end hotel guest that they're seeking to get in that restaurant a slightly different experience. Could be a welcome drink, or it could be some higher level of service or a better table.
Hey guys, if you're liking this video so far, let me know by leaving a like or a comment and share this episode with a friend. Plus, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you're building a business or hope to one day, grab one of my free playbooks. Just head over to jondavids.com/playbook. Okay, back to it. So it sounds to me like when you describe it like that, you've got on one side, hotel guests are obviously, they don't know the city. So if I'm traveling to Rome, I don't know the best restaurants in Rome or Miami or Ibiza or wherever it is. I go to the concierge and I might say, are there any restaurants you recommend here? But then the concierge is going to try to scramble to get me a reservation. If it's last minute, they can't get me a reservation. So I guess what I'm wondering is what's the actual, like, let's say I'm a guest. What do I walk into a hotel, what do I do?
You can use all those channels. So you can go to the concierge and you can ask, where should I go? And the job of a good concierge is to make the recommendation. The booking part of it is the difficult part. Usually when you ask the concierge to book that reservation, they then have to figure out who to call, who to email. They'll send an email, maybe they'll hear back, maybe they won't. So now as the guest, you can either go to the concierge desk, use the concierge to get that same reservation and get the yes that they're looking for immediately while they're standing in front of the concierge. Or with that welcome card, they can scan, they open up our booking interface, and it's a curated list of, like I said, in Miami, there's over 70 venues that they can choose from. 2 clicks, and they have a reservation booked. They have a confirmation sent to their phone. They can modify it. They can cancel it. They can do whatever they need to do. The difference between our guests and the guests that a restaurant traditionally gets is, we call them high intent guests. If you're checked into a hotel and you're looking to book a dinner reservation, you're hungry. You want to go for dinner. You're not booking 10 different restaurants so that you can maybe later choose which one to go to. 67% of the bookings that are made on Prima today are for today and tomorrow. And that's why our no-show rate is under 2%, whereas other platforms have a much higher no-show rate because that guest is in town. They're ready to go to dinner.
It's kind of like, I mean, you're open table, but for rich dudes and also people that are traveling and don't plan in advance? Because it kind of reminds me when you said that last thing about people are booking for tonight and tomorrow. Kind of reminds me of Hotel Tonight, which was an
Yes.
app that I used all the time. Like I
We
don't,
use
you
it
know,
all
when
the time as well.
I used to travel to New York like I don't know 3 4 times a month, and when I'd go there, I would never book a hotel in advance. I would literally land, book my hotel for that night a few hours prior, and I actually did that because I thought maybe I'll get a better deal. Maybe I just forgot to do it. Is that the purpose of Prima, or are you trying to solve some other problem?
It's actually the inverse of that. So, if, from the restaurant space, because of the way that the current reservation system is set up, especially for the high end restaurants, many people do actually plan in advance. So they'll book restaurant reservations 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month in advance. And plans change, and these people end up not going to the restaurant, not because they didn't want to, just because the trip never materialized, or the mother was sick, or the child was sick, or they couldn't go to the restaurant. And what the restaurants typically do is they end up overbooking. So some of the venues that we work with, they allow up to 30% overbooking because they know around 25% of those reservations are going to be canceled, and that creates a tremendous amount of friction. And you look at some of the top restaurants in Miami, they have a low rating on Google. And if you look at the reviews, it's never about the food. It's about the fact that they were made to wait at the bar for an hour because the restaurant was full. It's because the reservation system itself is just not functioning well
I'm
because you're
giving you a 2 star
forcing.
review because you're too popular.
But that's exactly, this is happening, and it's negatively affecting their business. As an operator, you're very concerned about those types of reviews, especially when you're doing everything you can, and there's no way to mitigate it because a certain percentage of people are just not going to show up. So we on the Prima interface, the way that it's intended to be, and where this is something that we're massaging right now, for those guests, we actually don't want to allow people to book 30 days in advance. Our system works for today, tomorrow, or sometime over the next 7 days. There's no need for you to book a reservation 30 days in advance. You can book one for tomorrow. And that way, those restaurants don't have to have such a high no show rate, don't have to have a high cancellation rate. They don't have to have all of this friction that's currently inherent within the current reservation system.
Right. Okay. So I get all that. And I see how the diner is happy because they're coming in. They get to go to the restaurant they want on short notice. The restaurant's happy because they get to fill their tables. Concierge happy because they get to, give the guests what they want. All right. I get it all. And if you were just some random entrepreneur off the street, I'd say, okay, awesome, cool idea, but ideas are a dime a dozen. But you're somebody who's actually built enormous businesses in the past and sold companies. So tell me how this thing is actually going today.
Well, it's going well because it's not a reservation system. My original business that I built and with my co-founder and sold was an affiliate network. And the idea for this company came about in 2008 when I saw just how disconnected the hospitality space was and how difficult it was to manage for all of the constituents of the space. So I actually wrote the spec for this business in 2008. So it's been 17 years
You wrote it in
to
2008 and you launched it in like 2024,
in
2025.
20 in 2024, 2025. So it took 17 years
No
to bring it.
procrastination there. You were busy
No
in the meantime.
procrastination at all. No, it was, and when Resi launched in 2014, and they were selling restaurant reservations. So within Prima, there's two types of bookings. There's a booking which is no fee, where the guest doesn't pay anything for the reservation. And then there is what we call a prime booking, and that's a reservation for a restaurant that is traditionally fully sold out. So, for example, Mila in Miami, the second highest grossing restaurant in North America, they generate $49 million in revenue. You can't book a reservation for this place. But if you want to, you can get access to that restaurant through Prima. We charge $200 for a two top plus $50 for each additional cover over two. So a four top is $300. We take 60% of that fee and we pay it to the restaurant before the management time involved in facilitating that reservation. And we share the rest between us and the hotel partner or the concierge that generated that booking. So when Resi launched in 2014 and they were selling reservations, people came to me in 2014 and said, "Alex, this is your business, that you've been talking about since 2000, since 2008." And so, the thing that I realized in building companies and selling companies is that, the marketing side of things, the customer acquisition that that people used to come to us and spend millions of dollars a month with us for. That's the most difficult part of the business. And what I looked for in launching this business was I looked for a business that is not reliant on buying eyeballs, on buying memberships and consumers and running ads and buying meta traffic, which every single business does. For us, this is a B2B product. There are consumers, there are pockets of consumers at these hotels, in high-end residential buildings on one side, and on the other side, there's a service provider that wants to sell something to those people. Right now, there is no highway that connects those two entities, and they're kind of, restaurants are hiring concierge liaisons that they send out to hotels to go give out gifts to concierges to try to get bookings in a very non-technological way. It's just kind of handshake deals. And it just, this industry shouldn't function this way. There's so much technology out there today to make things easier for all of the constituents, and that's what we're doing. We're creating those connection points.
Yeah, the hospitality hotel world you were explaining to me is all built on handshakes. This guy knows that guy. I met the concierge here, met the manager at this restaurant 3 weeks ago, so you should go there. And there's no really fixed, well operating marketplace. So there's a couple things you said that I actually want to dig into. I definitely want to dig into the business model a little bit more, how you're charging for bookings, how you're making money, how everybody's making money. The other thing you just said though that I think is so important is channeling demand, or you said, take the demand that already exists and just move it in a different direction. We always talk a lot about creating demand and the idea of if you have a new product, you have to create awareness of your product, but then you also might have to create awareness of the pain in the consumer because they don't even realize they have the pain necessarily until you point it out to them. And then once they realize they have the pain, you tell them about your product. What you're talking about here is actually a much easier path, which I love. It's that the pain already exists. People already know that they want to book a restaurant reservation. The concierge already knows that it's a pain in the butt for them to handle these and they'd love a better way. And all you're doing is channeling existing demand into a better experience for everybody. So
Correct.
it almost sounds to me like your first story, which I want you to share now, which is how you got into the affiliate world in the first place, which was similar, which was this demand already existed. It was just all messy and you came in and cleaned up a market. Is that how you got started?
Correct. Yeah. So I started in 1999. Someone showed me a website that had links to other websites, and you could make money by linking to other websites. And that was the very beginning of affiliate marketing. There was Commission Junction, there was Linkshare, there was BeFree, there was all kinds of different marketplaces. And I created this website called bigbigsavings.com that had links to Staples and to Amazon when it launched their affiliate program. And people would come to bigbigsavings.com to find about deals that were available. They would click on a link, they would buy something. Next thing you know, I'm a 20-something-year-old kid going into RBC with a stack of checks like this from every single merchant that paid me with their, from them based on whatever we generated in Linkshare. I would go to the bank every week with 80 to 90 different checks that I would have to deposit. I had no idea who was paying me, when they were paying me, if they paid me at all. It was a pain in the butt to manage
And
all
these
of
were
this stuff.
affiliates. So what you're saying is that like when you sent a customer to Staples and they bought something, you had to trust that Staples was going to pay you.
Right, and it was tracked by an affiliate marketplace like a Commission Junction or a Linkshare that exists today. And so what we did was I met my co-founder who had a very similar website. We combined our traffic because there were different tiers that you would make based on how much volume you would generate. Next thing you know, we have a group of people like us that were sharing links and generating higher commissions from these merchants that we work with. And what we realized that there's a couple skip a couple steps because we were in the email business delivering emails on behalf of people. And we very quickly realized that the same pain point I had as a publisher working with all these different advertisers, every other publisher had as well. There was not one single place where they can go to get all of these different campaigns and just get one check for all of these different advertisers that you could work with.
Hmm.
So in 2002, we created Azoogle Ads, which was an ad network, which immediately had us as, I was a publisher, my co-founder then was a publisher, and many of the other people that we were working with. In that year, we did over $2 million in revenue. And what we did was we aggregated all of these different advertisers that you could work with onto one platform with real-time reporting, with a check that arrived every 2 weeks. You got a payment for all of the traffic that you generated on our network. We dealt with the advertisers. We invoiced them. If one of them didn't pay us, it was our problem. If you're a publisher on our network, you always got paid for every single transaction that you sent our way. And so that business exploded just because there was a lot of publishers that wanted the security of working with a network that they knew that they could trust. Went from 2 million in sales to 21 million in sales, 64 million, 108, 140, kept growing to be a $200 million a year business, over 200 employees, 7 offices, US and Europe.
You did
It
this in
was
your
in
20s.
did this in my 20s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the time, I remember, so you mentioned a name just now, Commission Junction. I think they're still around,
I think so.
cj.com
Yeah,
might be the
cj.com.
website. So what were you doing? So Commission Junction, in my layman understanding, I think I was actually a customer or a user of that. Commission Junction would go to websites and say, hey, if you want to put this ad on your web page, we'll pay you when someone clicks it and buys something. And you were doing that, or you were doing something different?
So Commission Junction would work with a lot of internet retailers. This was like when the dot-com boom happened and then the dot-com bust happened, right? A lot of the eyeball based CPM based advertising went to more performance based, where you would actually get paid if you actually sold something. So as a merchant, for example, let's say Staples, I think was on BeFree, but let's say it was Staples. If we would log into Commission Junction, we would find an item that was, for example, on sale at Staples. Then we would take that item, put it in on our site, say this item is now on sale, and you can get. And if somebody bought it, we would just get a revenue share with, I think it was like 8% of whatever the cart size was for that transaction. The same way as the Amazon affiliate program works today, you can promote any products from within Amazon, but this gave us. Commission Junction at that time probably had hundreds, if not thousands, of different merchants that were online. And I think with Commission Junction, you would actually get an aggregate payment, but from others, BeFree, Linkshare, it was they were just the reporting interface, but you would get paid by every single one of the retailers that with whom you worked.
And so you built that business up to 200 million plus in revenue. And what were you doing? I mean, were you literally just accepting the demand that was coming in the door? People were knocking on your door, or were you doing growth hacky things for those 5 years?
It was very different. Whereas most networks, if an advertiser, even today, if you go to advertise on Meta, you put in your landing page and you put up a pixel, and then whatever transactions happen, that's what you pay. When an advertiser came to us, the first thing that we would do is myself and our team would sit down and say, how is it that you're acquiring customers? What does the entire landing page, lead page, whatever it is how you were generating business? What does it look like? We would redesign the entire thing. We work with customers like Netflix. I personally built their one-page sign-up flow. We worked with Blockbuster, where we redesigned their entire flow. We worked with eBay. If a client came to us and said, we want to generate mortgage refinance leads, we would then say, okay, who else can we find that is your competitor? And we can build a lead aggregation engine where you might want this lead, but they might want that lead, and we can make them bid for each other. So we did this in mortgage and debt consolidation and online education, where we worked with all the universities. We actually built portals where you would send traffic, because we knew that every single one of those clicks, it's either a 1 or a 0. We could either make money on it or not make money on it. And we knew that through our experience in working with hundreds of different advertisers, we knew what it would take to convert somebody. So we had a team of 40, we had 40 developers. We had a team of 40 designers that would work on, optimization, and we had an affiliate management team that would work with our publishers. At the height, we had about just over 40,000 affiliates on the network, and
And an
over a
affiliate
thousand.
could be a person with a blog, right up to
Anybody.
it could be someone with a website with some traffic that you could put an ad on that page.
Correct. It wasn't necessarily somebody with a website. There were a lot of people that would just media buy. So they would come to us, they would take a campaign, they would then go to Fox News, buy a link on the homepage, and they would just arbitrage. It
Oh,
was
wow.
just the same way as we made a lot of money in our business. There were a lot of people that made a lot of money by working with us. I know, one of my best friends to this day, there were campaigns that he would negotiate hard against me to try to get a higher rate from me because he was telling me that he was losing money. Meanwhile, he was getting a 10 times return on ROAS on the media buys that he was doing. He was just printing money every single day. All he did was just buy a text link, and he's arbing it on the other end.
So he would get a text link from you. He knew that you were going to pay him something, and he was going to resell it for 10 times what what is going to cost him, kind of thing.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. So, okay, so you build this company up, and there's something I'm noticing in the current company, Prima and Azuga Lads, which is that you're a marketplace guy. And marketplaces are notoriously hard because of this fancy term, supply, demand, liquidity, which basically just means you need to have a way for the buyers and the sellers to work with each other. And once you have a lot of buyers and sellers, it's easy. But getting that first buyer and seller transaction and getting it to happen 100 times a day, 1,000 times a day is very hard. How do you start? How did you begin to create liquidity in this marketplace then? And then how are you doing it in Prima? And are there similarities?
There are a lot of similarities. We started Azuga Labs as publishers ourselves, so we built the product for us, and we already had an existing informal network of publishers with whom we've worked. And so, at the beginning, the campaigns weren't the Netflix and the eBays of the world. They were more direct marketing focused. It could have been an ebook or something like that. Or I remember with my co-founder, we created Escape the Police ebook, that we would sell for $19.99. We put it up as an offer on Azuga Ads. Next thing you know, people are promoting it and we're making money. So, at the beginning, it was us and our informal network of people that fed the engine that Azuga Ads became. Prima is no different. I tell my team here all the time that it is really the team here that drives the business forward. The type of individuals that I, over my career, have been able to become friendly with and have cobbled together as my business associates are at the very top of the hospitality industry. So these restaurants that we've been able to bring on board, many of them, the owners of those places or the management of those places, we've been very close with over many, many years. And now we're expanding in London right now, and a lot of the introductions that are happening in London are coming from our existing Miami relationships because of the results that they're seeing in Miami. So it's kind of the same. Once you have a core group of individuals that are very connected just like the online advertising space is very small, even back then, even today, there's a handful of places where you can buy media. The hospitality industry is no different. There are people at the very top that are highly, highly connected. And, for us to go live with a restaurant, it's 5 seconds. They sign a digital onboarding document. We program their open hours and their availability, and they're live within the marketplace within an hour. So it's just having the right individual to open the right door, and the product is online.
It's easy to say that's a really, really hard thing to do
Oh, it's a huge moat.
Yeah, because to get Mila, which makes $49 million a year at one single location. I think you said it was the number one grossing
Number
restaurant
two.
in the country. For them to do anything, frankly, to make any change to their business model, bring on a new partner, new vendor, new whatever, it's like a big risk because they could just
Yeah.
do nothing and they'll be fine. So how do you convince them, even with a relationship, how do you convince them to do this thing?
Well, look, I think the business model has to stand on its own 2 feet, right? The product itself, when you explain it to any business traveler or any affluent consumer, when you say to them that if you check into a hotel in a city that you've never been to, and you could scan a QR code and get access to the top restaurants without having to call or talk to anyone, every single person says yes. There's been no one that we spoke with that says, "Oh, it's really easy to book restaurant reservations." It's horrible. It's a horrible experience no matter where you go. Any city that you travel to, the second that you get there, it's like you go. I've done it. I spent a year traveling the world when I took a break from my third business, and I remember checking into a hotel, walking over to the concierge and saying, "I want to go for dinner," and their response was not, "Oh, let me help you with that." It was like, "Oh, this guy," right?
But can't Open Table, like, why hasn't Open Table crushed you, or could they crush you?
Open Table already has a lot of restaurants that they're working with. The most of the restaurants are doing everything that they can, right? So they're on Open Table. They're sponsoring their listings. They're paying for bookings. We say that there's three types of restaurants. There's the restaurants that are always sold out, right? And for those restaurants, we give them money straight to the bottom line because there's no increase in cost for them to get this affluent consumer that wants to come and spend money with them. So that money goes straight to the bottom line. There's the restaurant that's struggling. We don't want to work with them. If it's a restaurant that's struggling, they're struggling for a reason. And then there's the restaurants that are kind of in the middle. They have 50 tables, and 43 of those tables or 42 of those tables are booked any given night. But they still have 6, 7, 8 tables that are available almost every single time slot. And for every one of those restaurants, when we meet with them, we say, look at that two top. If you had to pay $20 to put two people at that table, would you? 100% of the time, they say 100% yes, we would.
So they
So
would have to pay $20. What's the business model? Because you mentioned earlier that at some point the consumer actually has to pay a premium just to get the two top.
right. So those are for the restaurants that are sold out.
Got it.
The restaurants that want to invite the guests to come to them, it's a no fee. We charge the restaurant around $10 a cover for each one of those guests. And keep in mind, we're working with the higher end of the restaurant where the average spend is anywhere between $120 to $130. We're starting to get data now about our average spend from our guests. And I don't have hard data to share yet. We will soon. But anecdotally, we've been told that the average spend is at the higher end of their expected range because, again, that guest is coming from a high-end hotel spending $800 or $1,000 a night. That is exactly the kind of guest that is going to come in and buy the bottle of wine or buy the extra drink or maybe stay a little bit longer at the restaurant because they're not in a rush. They're on vacation.
So there was another growth hack here that you told me about on the phone that when you said it to me, I just smiled. I thought, oh God, this is going to be so huge. So you said to me that when the guest walks up to the concierge and actually wants to book a restaurant and goes through the Prima app and it's all booked and everyone's happy, other people, maybe the person behind the front desk or another concierge or other employees might say, wait a minute, could I also help guests book? That was just give me a login also to this app. Are
Yeah.
you using that as a growth hack? And can you talk about that?
Yeah, so at Azoogle Ads, we used to give any referring affiliate a revenue share from all of the revenue that we would generate from any of their referrals. And so within Prima, we built a two-tier referral program. And so there were some people at Azoogle Ads that would make more in referral revenue than they did by themselves because at the very beginning they just referred a lot of affiliates to this brand new affiliate network. So within Prima, we see the same thing. As a concierge who uses our system, you can refer any other concierge or any employee. We have people at the beach, for example, at one of the hotels that all signed up. And when guests are at the beach chair asking them, "Hey, where should I go for dinner?" They say, "Great, I can actually help you with that. I can book that reservation for you." So there's an incentive for them to send that guest to a participating restaurant. So the system is set up just like an affiliate network, and there's multiple layers to this because when a hotel refers a guest to a restaurant, they get a revenue share from that booking. When we launch the Prima app for the guest to actually be able to book within an app rather than a web-based interface, when that guest downloads the Prima app and they use it anywhere else worldwide, that originating hotel continues to generate rev share because it's their hotel guest. So
Whoa,
the
whoa,
whole
whoa. Sorry. What was sorry, that you blew my mind there. Did my brain just explode? Wait a second. So if the hotel introduces a guest to the Prima app, they make money off that guest indefinitely?
indefinitely, I have two options. I can spend money on advertising, I can hire people, or we can share the revenue that we generate with with the actual demand side, right? So if a hotel generates that guest for us, I want that hotel to make as much money as possible. It's the same way that Netflix used to pay us $45 a sale when each the monthly fee was only $9.99. They knew that on average that customer is going to stay a year or two or more, and they're going to monetize hopefully that consumer forever. So our pitch to our hotel partners is we want to be a revenue driver for them, and we want them just to be just as much a part of our ecosystem as we are of theirs, and become a valuable amenity to their guests, but also a valuable revenue driver. Very different than the mini bar that they have in their room. Is just transactional. Whatever somebody takes out from that when the hotel guest leaves, that mini bar is not selling to them anymore. We are. So as we launch more geographies, as we launch London and Dubai and all of the other cities for everyone that travels worldwide, we want our hotel partners to sign on as quickly as possible. We want to grow the business as quickly as possible and incentivize everybody in the right way.
So on one hand, when you first told me this, you said the hotel is able to serve their guests better. Great. Hotels want to serve their guests better. Check. And then the next thing, which is not only can you serve us better, but maybe you get some fee for that referral. Okay, fine. But you're also saying you get this recurring, endless revenue stream because that guest, anytime they use the app in the future, a share goes back, a little VIG goes back to the originating hotel. And so
Correct.
this is actually not just a bit of incremental revenue. This could be a very substantial revenue line for a hotel that is referring this app to a lot of guests.
Correct.
What
That's the
if
goal.
Okay, what if a guest is using the app and they've been using it for a couple years? Is the idea that consumers will eventually just use this themselves, or is it always going to be through a concierge type figure?
Well, the idea is that if eventually, for us to curate a subset of guests that want to use the system on their own. Of course, if you're able, the last thing that I want to do is create for restaurants the exact same problem which they have today, which is, people log into Prima and they book stuff 30 days in advance or 45 days in advance. So our system, for example, prevents a guest from booking 2 reservations on the same day. Other systems don't do that. Our system also for guests realistically should not allow them to book more than 7 days out, because we don't want them to book more than 7 days out. You should be able to book these restaurants, when they're available, and if they're sold out, you will pay a premium to get into these
Surge pricing.
restaurants. Correct. So the goal eventually is to consolidate the high end market, to allow them to use our products to fill these restaurants, because the goal for us is not to work with thousands of restaurants. We want a highly curated list. We call it, kind of this fire hose. The market right now is diffuse, right? A hotel guests, if there's 300 rooms in a hotel, 300 times 2, arguably 600 people are going to eat dinner somewhere. They're all eating, but most of them are just making their decisions based on a Google search. They search for a restaurant or some recommendation or something that they saw on TikTok. And then when they see that video on TikTok, in addition to that video, there's also no way to actually book from that TikTok. And so one of the divisions of the company is actually working with influencers and bloggers to allow them for actual tracking of how many bookings they're driving. So we have partnerships that are going to go live within the next couple months with several high-profile influencers that are going to go to a restaurant, eat there, do the review, and then put a book through Prima link, which now the restaurant will see, what did that actually generate for us? Nothing like this exists today.
Yeah, I understand the idea that the minute you cut the minute you cut the hotel out in this instance, it all of a sudden just goes head to head with OpenTable. And you could put limitations in, but I really like the idea of saying, listen, this actually is an app that you use with a hotel as the intermediary, because it gives the hotel something special that they can offer you. I can't just jump in and do it myself. Then it's not special anymore.
Well,
It's
and
just a
so
self-serve thing.
correct. And that's the part that makes it interesting. So some of the hotels that we're speaking with, they actually want to, they'll pay for the Prime fees in order to provide that level of service to their guests. So they'll subsidize the fees. Because everything is also dynamic, there may be some restaurants that would be available to certain hotel guests and not available to others.
Mm.
And there will be restaurants that may only be available to be booked at a subset of hotels, whereas other restaurants might want to just be able to book anywhere. So, the nice thing here is it's all dynamic. It's there, you
Yeah.
control the both sides of the equation.
It gets so juicy. If you're staying at the Ritz-Carlton, you can eat here. If you're staying at the Hilton, you can eat there. I mean, you get really, really granular, and you can start
Super granular.
to attract only the most high net worth consumers to your restaurant, and you're using technology to do it. You have, I mean, you could even say, well, listen, if you dine, it's almost like the Rolex playbook or the Louis Vuitton or any of these guys, where it's like, hey, if you spent this amount of money here, then we'll let you go there.
But that's, this is how the restaurants work. When the operator of Mila is actually on our advisory board, and one of the things that he had mentioned is the thing that we're building is the one thing that he looks for in his business. He wants to reach exactly these people, and so creating that channel, a restaurant can only fit so many covers for every single time slot that they have. And when a restaurant hits that 100% demand, the only way for them to optimize for the amount of revenue that they generate is, they can work with Prima to sell some of those reservations to create more bottom line revenue, or they can actually optimize for the channel. So they can say, we'll leave less for the open market because we know that average spend is $100, and we'll leave more for the hotel guest because we know that hotel guest is going to spend $140. So they can decide exactly where that pipeline is coming from, as long as the volume is there. That's the thesis for the company. That's what we're building now. But when the traffic is there, you can then decide, I've hit my limit of covers. I don't want anymore, right? So
Right.
you're not listed anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy. You can go super Kelly
Super geek.
bag, Birkin bag model on this at the height. Okay, so this is so cool, and I'm curious to see how this goes over the next little bit. Let's get into the story of, I think it was your second or two and a half business. So you had a Zoogle. Before that, you had the Deal Site. Then you had it was an
Flow.
e-commerce company for pets, and then you had it turned into a blog. So talk about that experience, because that kind of ended in a wonderful explosion of a disaster.
Yeah,
So tell me how that
I
whole
could
thing
call it
went.
that. When we were ready to move on from Azuga Ads, I had whiteboards in my office that we filled with 1,000 different ideas of new businesses that we wanted to launch. I had a dog at the time, and we lived in New York City, and I constantly ran out of dog food all the time. And
What year is
I
this?
this is 2009. And one of the ideas was just create auto ship for dogs, for dog food. It's the most predictable thing that you need all of the time. They eat the exact same quantity every single day. A bag lasts a certain amount of time. And for many people who fed their dogs a specialty type of food, you had to go to the one store, and then when you get there, they don't have it. It's like, okay, now you got to change the dog's food. Dogs don't have diarrhea. It's the worst experience. So no one was doing it at the time, and we figured that the biggest challenge that we're going to have is, unfortunately, dogs die. So there's a certain time limit to a customer, and we built PetFlow, which was a auto ship product for pet food. We built it to almost 10,000 SKUs, multiple warehouses. It grew to be about a $60 million a year business. We drove it to break even, which it was unheard of in that space at that scale. Everyone thought it'd have to be much more than that. And one of the strengths of customer acquisition for that channel was Facebook. We were buying a lot of media on Facebook, and within Facebook, they opened up the algorithm for outbound links. And we created something called the PetFlow blog. I did it myself. It was just me creating a simple website, and it was content sourced from YouTube with a wrapper around it of an article of some story that was made up about the content. And a lot of it was pet centric, with links out to PetFlow to buy dog food. and we were generating thousands and thousands of customers because who likes to watch videos of cute cats and dogs? Owners of cats and dogs.
And you were
And
placing these on Facebook or on your blog?
we would put the videos on Facebook. That would link out to our blog.
Mm.
And then what I quickly realized was that I remember turning to Joe and I said, I bet you we can get other stuff to work to make a lot more money than our own website. And so we put AdSense up there, and then we optimize it with another network, and then it just turned out to be an arb play. You can it costs you a certain amount of time and money to curate a piece of content. You post it on Facebook, it generates traffic on the other side, and you can see how much money you make. Next thing you know, in 1 year, it makes $7 million
Oh my
just
God.
from this little PetFlow blog, just me doing it myself.
My first real business was this exact thing. I made $300,000 a year in college on a much smaller scale doing this with MSN.com, Yahoo.com, AOL.com, where I got my stories onto their front pages, and then through related links, they would send back traffic to my site and Google ads. And then eventually we got into big agency campaigns, big dollar, $35 CPM type brand marketing stuff. And yeah, it was me literally just cleaning up through the arbitrage of get traffic cheap, sell it for a lot. And it sounds like you were doing the same thing.
So we did the same thing, and then we realized that this is an actual business, much more interesting than shipping heavy dog food around the country. As much as I enjoyed that original business, so we handed the keys to PetFlow to our COO, who continued to run the business, and then that business was eventually sold. And we spun out a product called littlethings.com. It was a destination site it was almost identical to BuzzFeed, just designed by me with the content that resonated within our audience. PetFlow kept growing. The PetFlow blog, the PetFlow fan page kept growing to be millions of followers. Next thing you know, we realized that there's other publishers with other fan pages that weren't monetizing. So we created a monetization engine behind littlethings.com so anybody could syndicate our content. And then we had a team of 40 writers that would curate content, and then started working with big agencies, and we had a production studio, big office on 7th Avenue. And that business grew to be a $60 million a year business, just
Little Things?
littlethings.com.
Were you bootstrapping that, or did you raise money for that eventually?
We raised money for PetFlow. Little Things was just spun out. I mean, it was making money from day one.
And I'm just curious, how did you even, when you say it was spun out and you handed the keys over, that sounds very, very simple, but there was also, I'm sure, equity, there was ownership.
Yeah.
Somebody maybe said, did you have to kind of
We transferred
share the
the-
revenue with PetFlow or what?
We transferred the ownership. So it was, the investors in PetFlow stayed on for Little Things. It was just just an extent. We spun it out as in the founders moved on to run that business. We created a separate entity, but we basically carried on from PetFlow as a standalone business.
So you build this up to a $60 million business, and then what happened?
And then you get the oh shit moment, which is why my co-founder. Oh, sorry, my phone is ringing here. I'll decline that. Will say never depend on someone for all of your traffic. And for us, unfortunately, that was Facebook. No matter how much we try to grow our email list or to syndicate anywhere else, I mean, it's like today, if you're gonna go buy media, Meta's the place that you're gonna start. And if you say you're not gonna get it from there, 90% of your business is gone. So we were generating the lion's share of that revenue and the traffic. And I mentioned to you when we spoke, we had a TV in our office that showed the number of concurrent users on our site at any time. And I remember I still have photos on my phone to this day. 120,000 concurrent users, in that 3-second segment. That's how many people were on our site all day. And In one day, it went down by 90%.
And
It
why
would
did that happen?
Facebook just tuned the algorithm down. They wanted more people to stay within Facebook rather than linking out. So they deprioritized outbound traffic, and it was more the video content shifted to more native video rather than linking out to YouTube. You could then start uploading videos onto Facebook directly. And it's not one of those things that was like a slow. It was very painful because it was so fast, but I think it was actually to our benefit that it was so fast rather than kind of like a slow decline, because then you could kind of see the writing on the wall very quickly.
It's funny. There were so many businesses back in that 2010 to 2016, 17 timeframe, even before BuzzFeed, that I remember. Like About.com is an example, and there's a whole bunch of others that were built on these either enormous Facebook or enormous Google dependencies, where all the traffic came from either the search engine or the feed. And business, when you're getting that much traffic and it's free and it's just plentiful, it feels great. But at the end of the day, like you said, 90% of your traffic coming from one source, they sneeze, they turn a light switch, they change one line of code, and you're done. And
You're
it
done.
happened to so many different companies.
So many companies, and I mean, to an extent, it works the same way now when you're buying media. Everything could be going really well, and a competitor just, they see the exact ad that you're running, they can copy you, and they bid just a little bit more. I used to always say that, in online advertising, you don't win by beating your competitor by 5 or 10%. You can beat your competitor by 0.1%, and that will give them all of the media versus you getting all of the media. So there's lots of people that who build their businesses based on advertising, and it works really, really well until it stops. And then that's really the challenge of being a founder of one of these companies, is because you constantly have to iterate and constantly have to update, because there's always somebody on your heels that will take all of it.
Yeah, I almost rather like the example of, hey, would you rather get a bunch of free traffic from Google and Meta, or would you rather pay for it? I almost would rather pay for it, because at least there's an incentive for them to not stop giving it to me. I'm giving you some money for it, so at least keep going. Whereas if Google is sending you a bunch of traffic but they're not getting anything from it, what do they care? They'll just demote you on the page.
Yeah, and I mean, look, there's the same thing. It's TikTok and Instagram, right? Like you can't predict virality. You'll go viral with one piece of content, and then you're going to spend the next 3 months chasing that one piece of content with another one that you hope to replicate, and it just, it doesn't work that way. You can't predict this stuff.
It's so true. But and the one thing I will say about Meta, I remember, do you remember that day, what was it, 2 years ago or so, where Meta in a single day dropped by 25%?
Hmm.
So I remember when that happened, and I had then and I have now a very large portion, of Meta stock. And I remember when it happened, and everybody was, "Oh my God, you're going to sell your Meta shares?" I said, "Are you crazy? I'm going to buy as much as I can." This company is so built in, and you don't realize it unless you're in the e-com space, in the digital space. You don't realize it's not just that people use Facebook and Instagram; it's that businesses depend on this for their life.
Yeah.
Businesses that are billion-dollar companies and businesses that are $400,000 a year companies. It is so built into the modern commercial ecosystem.
There aren't many channels that you can rely on for a broad-based, stable traffic whenever you want it. The only challenge is, it takes a lot of capital to figure out exactly what's going to work, and you have to be able to be prepared for a little bit of pain until you get there, or you really have to understand how the ecosystem works and have very deep connections within that ecosystem in order to turn a profit very quickly. Otherwise, it takes a long time.
Hmm. Do you see similarities between what you built, like the Azugle ads, and then with little things, and then what you're doing now? Like, is there a common thread that you keep coming back to as an entrepreneur?
Well, I think it's really, having a diversified business. That's for PetFlow, it was having a lot of SKUs for customers to choose from. For Azuga ads, we used to joke that what if our top advertiser went away? And we would say, well, the second one would become the top one. um, and that's why we grew that business to have over 1,000 different advertisers, because we really had no idea what was going to perform and why it was going to. Sometimes it was the strangest thing that would be the top campaign for a day or for a week. It was really hard to know exactly what was going to work. And the same thing for Prima. One of the things that I love about this business is how many people we really can touch, because the product is being installed in residential buildings, is being installed in hotels, is being installed in different apps. We have a couple partnerships that are about to kick off in the next 30 to 60 days, where again, there's communities of people that are using an app every single day, and as a benefit to using that app, they will get access to the Prima booking system, so they can get this frictionless way to get into these
Do you
restaurants.
have that QR code thing that you showed me last time?
I don't have it in
You
my
don't
in
have
this
it? So
office.
these
I don't have it.
beautiful QR code, I don't know, little
It's a
statues that you
stand.
put.
It's yeah. And look, even with the QR, when I check into a hotel, usually the QRs are, in a pamphlet, or there's just like a little
A
printed
sticker on the coffee
plastic
table.
or a sticker. None of them have ad copy. Ours is it's either wooden or acrylic. I can send you the new designs. There's one that's in metal, in gold. It's supposed to stand out. It's something that makes that hotel money. So we want as many eyeballs on this thing as possible. And that's the same thing as when an advertiser came to us and wanted to work with us. We didn't just take their landing page. We redesigned the entire process. So we're rethinking the way that consumers are going to get into these restaurants. And again, on our site, we put the headline is the platform that connects hospitality. We want to be connected to any pockets of these high-end guests, high-intent guests that want the same thing. They want to get into restaurants without a hassle, and we provide that for them. So the more people we connect to, the more diversified this business is, the more hotels we're working with, the more defensible that business is for us. And I definitely don't want to rely on one channel, which is why when the influencer business came to us, I said, great, of course we'd love to work with influencers. It's just another link that goes to our system that tracks a transaction. When a community of comes to us and says we have 20,000 people using our app every single day, and we want to give them as a benefit your services, of course we would love to integrate with you and work. It's just an API integration, and for us nothing changes. For the restaurants, nothing changes. So we're trying to create as diversified a business as possible, where we don't have to say no to anyone, and we're not dependent on any one partner. So I don't have to worry of, our top client is going to go away.
Channel dependency, customer dependency, any kind of concentration there, and you probably get cold chills just thinking
Yep.
about that day where you saw your Facebook traffic dip. You never want that to happen again.
Nope.
You don't want it to be that you get one hotel that is responsible for 80% of your bookings. I mean,
Correct.
and the reality is that does happen in a lot of businesses where they have these dependencies on a certain partner or a certain vendor channel. And it sounds to me like you're getting wiser as an entrepreneur, thinking back to those scars and saying, I don't want to repeat that same mistake. The other thing, though, that I see that you have across the board here is you're really good at finding inefficient marketplaces, or even the lack of a marketplace, finding inefficiencies in the market and saying, okay, how can I bridge the buyers and sellers here? Because you kind of did that. I mean, in the first case, you did that with the Google ads. You kind of also did that with the e-commerce, because you sort of arbitraged. I mean, e-commerce was one thing, but with little things, you arbitraged the content with the monetization, and now you're doing it now for sure. Is that something? Do you look at markets all the time and just say, wait a minute, that should be more efficient?
If I could list, there's a lot of markets. I mean, I find hospitality to be one of the most inefficient ones, just because there's a lot of handshake deals that happen. Anytime you walk into a restaurant, I've done it many times, and you have to walk up to the maitre d' and give them a 50 for a table. That pains me, because as an operator, I know that the owner of this restaurant put their heart and soul into building this place, probably borrowed his mother's and his father's money to open this restaurant, and has been slaving away for years, and then that money is going to someone else who's just standing at the front and is taking that money and putting it in their pocket. And it shouldn't be like that.
It might be
So
100 in Ibiza.
could or more. So these when you look, and it's the same thing for nightclubs, and nightlife is a huge market segment for us that we will definitely be through our network. We are definitely going to enter. Try booking a table at one of the top clubs. It's like I get 5 messages every week from friends that are coming to Ibiza. Do you know anyone where we can book a table? And it's a WhatsApp message that gets sent to a promoter. The promoter has to ask for the inventory. They get a response back 2 hours later. I've been there. I've booked millions of dollars in spend at the top nightclubs in New York and in Vegas, in Miami. And that system is the same today as it was in 2000. You got to know a guy, and it shouldn't be like that. If you want to spend money, the one thing that we all want is we want our time. I actually want to use this as little as possible. So if I can, in 2 clicks, book a restaurant or book a table somewhere, or buy a ticket for something without having to do all of the research and having to know a guy, it makes my life better. And so this is why the pitch to everybody that we speak with is very simple, because everyone has the same pain point. There's no one out there that says it's easy to book reservations for anything. You have to know where to go, and you got to know a guy.
Do you find, I worked for a hot minute in the nightclub world as a promoter years ago. Do you find that that type of customer versus a Netflix, and I don't even mean a Netflix because of the size, I just mean a different industry of customer, whether you're selling pet food or something else, hotels, nightclubs, restaurants, haven't these always been inefficient? And might there be a reason for that? Like, isn't that maybe part of the appeal?
No, I think they're just I mean, I think they're inefficient just because no one has almost every conversation that we have with, yeah, at the highest level, whether it be at the hotels and restaurants, when we explain to them about Prima, they say finally. It's not that they said, oh, we're kind of happy with the way that it's been working. I just don't think anyone's really approached it from this point of view of actually building a bridge between all of these parties. Most groups build technology for themselves or for a specific product, right? So there's 7 rooms and cover manager that handle the back of the house. Once a reservation comes in, you have to assign it to a table. You have to who you have to track spend, who the waiter is, and all of that kind of stuff. On the front end, there's these marketplaces. You got OpenTable, you got Resi, you got Talk. But beyond that, when a restaurant does everything that they can within that sphere, and they still have empty tables, there's really very little that they can do. And so when someone comes in and says we're going to consolidate this traffic and point them to the participants in the marketplace, they see that as the actual solution to a lot of their problems. So I think the market is inefficient until somebody comes in and makes it more efficient, the same way as Uber did for transportation. You don't have to hunt around for a taxi. You can just request one on your phone. I hate that I've sat on pitches where everyone explains we're the Uber of this and we're the Uber of that. And here I am to say we're kind of the Uber for hospitality, because we're making it easy for everyone. And we're putting money where it belongs, which is in the demand channel. The demand channel is the one that facilitates all of these guests to the supply. They should get paid for it. And traditionally they haven't.
Well, Alex, no one should doubt you. You've got a track record. You've done this before. You've got a pretty sterling resume. So I'm excited, man. I can't wait to see where this
Thank
goes.
you.
Hey, if you enjoyed that, show me some love in the comments section and smash that subscribe button now. Plus, stick around because you're gonna love this next video.